Hello viewers, hello internet, it's me, it's Ro, I'm back, and I have been inspired by the universe above me to recreate my awesome video about being transgender, because it occurs to me, I thought while making that video, I included so much information. I thought like that was it, that was all anyone would need, but no, because I'm back, I have more information. But first off, the basics. Transgender is a term used to describe someone whose gender does not correspond with their sex assigned at birth. I have a few opinions on this, like how sex and gender have never and will never have any correlation with one another. We all experience gender and sex differently, and we will get to that in a bit. We will get to that in a bit. It will all make sense. I promise. I just need to stop getting ahead of myself. So the term transgender is most often used to describe someone who transitioned male to female or female to male. It's a blanket term, which means it goes over a bunch of different unique categories that we didn't even think about before. So that would go for non-binary, gender fluid, and agender. That's not a gender, it's agender, one word. And I'm sure like most of you watching this will probably understand all these terms. Some of you will probably be like pros at this already, but this is more to do with the people who don't really know what you're doing. So I'm not saying leave. I'm not saying leave. I'm saying just be patient. Just be patient. It's easy to understand why someone new to all of this would be insanely confused, and sometimes that would cause someone to go out of their way and act hostile. So if you're planning to ignore most of what I say in this video and submit to the comments, I'm urging you right now to think about what you're gonna say and say. Yeah? Does that sound good? You might learn something new. You are just as welcome here as everyone else. You're fine. I've been on both sides. I've not known. I've been confused. I have made attack helicopter jokes before. It's not funny, I know, but it was funny at the time. And I've known, but I've not been able to explain anything to people. I've known, but I don't really know, if, like, you know what I mean. Like, when people would come up to me and ask me, like, what does this mean? You know, like, what does it mean to be this? Like, why are you transgender? Like, how does that happen? I would be like, I don't know. No one's ever told me this. No one's told me anything to do with being transgender. I just know I'm not a girl. To confuse parents and family, don't worry, you are not getting shouted at. To keyboard warriors, this is not a debate. This is people's real experiences, and we've got to be empathetic before anything. I say that with the utmost truth. I don't know what this was. In making this video, I'm not trying to win or start an argument. This is for education. I'm being your teacher today. I'm being your teach. I need to shut up. The transgender experience is a topic long been picked on by misinformation. That dastardly dame. In this video, unlike my last video on this, we are going to go very, very deep. We are going to go through the science, the history and culture, the workings of transphobia and how it affects people, and we're going to learn about gender identity, the gender spectrum, if you will. Now please buckle up and put your thinking caps on. We're going to start with the science. When people, usually cis people, are explaining transgender people, they often say the soul trapped in the wrong body or something along the trapped in the wrong body sort of lines. But we are most definitely not trapped. We just experience a distress when we're perceived the entirely wrong way. So would anybody else. I actually really like my body, thanks. I don't think I'm trapped in it at all. But obviously some people do experience distress about their like physical body. And don't get me wrong, I do sometimes, and that's completely normal, it's fine in the transgender experience. But I should call the video that. In my last video about the science of being trans, someone got into an argument with me because trans people say their souls are in the wrong body. Souls are not scientifically backed up. Trans people have no alibi, and you're wrong. Well, this one's for you, buddy. They are not a bad person for thinking that. No one's a bad person for thinking that. Because misinformation is everywhere. It's only when you try to act on that and you actively attack people for being trans or actively try to spread misinformation, then you've got it wrong. Then you really got it wrong. You need to rethink that. Sex is decided when the father's sperm is allowed to enter the mother's egg. Isn't that lovely? Sometimes when this happens, you get intersex individuals. They are caused by a hormonal imbalance in the womb. I also got into an argument in the comments of my last video with the same person about this, because I said that being intersex is completely normal and fine, and it's just a different way of being, and he was like, no, actually, it's like an imperfection. It's like, what's the word? It's a birth defect. It's like, no, it's not. Sometimes you might experience, you know, like, it just happens and they're fine. But I don't know what, like, you're so mad about. I don't know what to argue about that with. But being intersex does not make their sex or their gender any less valid. That was what I was trying to get to. Sex is the chromosomal biological system that decides what kind of genitalia we should have, what kind of bones we should have, etc., etc. We can experience gender forming at ages 3 to 5, and this goes for all children. But transgender children might experience gender dysphoria at these ages, like feeling hurt when called specific pronouns, etc., being put in feminine specific clothes, being called a girl. Children under the age of 18 will not be allowed any kind of medical transition apart from like maybe puberty blockers at like 10 to 12 years old. And I just want to reiterate right now that puberty blockers are used for all children. It's not just for transgender children. If there's people in the world that are trying to get puberty blockers, like, you know, banned, when like children with early onset puberties, is that the right term? Early puberties will literally end up deformed or like really short for the rest of their lives if they do not take puberty blockers at like, you know, the age that they need to. But moving on, in February of 2015, Professor Guy T. Jones, is that? He began a study called the European Network for the Investigation of Gender Incongruence, aka energy. And by gender incongruence, he means gender dysphoria. It's got multiple names, but gender dysphoria is the new term. That's what is most commonly used. This piece of hair is really annoying me. So this study followed 2,600 trans participants, and they were all undergoing MRI brain scans along with their 2,600 cisgendered counterparts. Near the end, they compared the scans, and they could not find a single instance where a transgender brain did not match the brain of their cisgender counterpart. So that means that cis men's brains were the same as trans men's brains, and this goes the same for cis women and trans women brains. They're all the same. So it did match the gender counterpart, but it did not match the sex counterpart. So then that just goes to show that there is something completely different for everyone up here than what's going on down there. Just saying. And then you can't just have one experiment without redoing it like a couple years later. Just one set of proof in the science world does not prove anything. So Dr. Julie Banker from the University of Leeds repeated the experiment in May of 2018, which focused on 160 child and teenage transgender participants. It conducted the same MRI tests, but with the participants not undergoing HRT, obviously, because they're children and teenagers. So at the end, the results were completely identical to Professor Jones' energy study. He said, "We will be better equipped to support these young people instead of just sending them to a psychiatrist and hoping their distress will disappear spontaneously," which honestly, he ate so hard when he said that. But remember when I talked about intersex individuals? Because let's get back to that right now, because there's actually more than the two sexes you were raised to believe there was. Your 23rd pair of chromosomes, so that you're either XX or XY, and although you're going to have some completely different variations to that, that's the most popular way to go. Although recently scientists are saying that sex is also a spectrum, and they are looking deeper into that currently. There's no solid thing right now. I believe that personally, because I believe there is proof. I know there is proof. people are living proof, but we'll wait until science catches up. So 2% of live births are intersex, and that's not to say that if you have a C-section, that automatically gives you a high risk of having an intersex child. I had someone once say that I looked like I was born through C-section. That's just saying live births, because I know some people would take that and run with it, but yeah. That's a bit more than the 1% of transgender people, if you can believe that. But that also means that there are roughly 130 million beauties who are intersex. It may look small in the percentage, but when you look at it from the satellite, there's a lot of people. Your sex is dependent on sexual determination and sexual differentiation. Sexual determination is what you do with what chromosome lucky draw you get, and this largely determines what happens to your body during sexual differentiation, which describes the process of your body developing the physiological characteristics associated with your sex. So someone might look physiologically female, but have no ovaries or uterus, or may even have tissues from testicles, or even have testicles themselves. All of that while possibly having a vulva or a vagina, or someone with a penis and testicles might also have ovaries. The possibilities are endless. And this does not make all intersex people transgender, but they can basically choose whatever they want to be. They're like Barbie. This is also a good point to be bringing up the children getting sex change operations that transphobic people often bring up. Because the truth is that no transgender child is being given a sex change operation. Firstly, that is illegal, and secondly, that's incredibly immoral. Children can't consent to anything like that. So why are parents and doctors giving sex change operations to healthy intersex infants? Roll that one around in your noodle. Okay, anyway, aside from that, transitioning medically, although not all transgender people choose to do this, is widely known and medically proven to help with our well-being. What a surprise! This could be used to help reduce gender dysphoria, where you feel distress when your perceived gender does not match your actual gender. This can be helped with HRT, aka hormone replacement therapy, or surgeries, including genital correction surgeries or facial reconstruction, which honestly makes me think that cis people might also go through this in part, and get surgeries to get more masculine or feminine so that they can feel more happy in their gender. I don't know. I haven't fully built that theory up, so if you guys have anything to say on this matter, please talk to me about it down in the comments. I want to talk about it so bad. And this goes for anything in this video. You can comment, say whatever you want. But in conclusion from all of this knowledge, your sex can differentiate just as much as your gender, and your gender has absolutely nothing to do with your sex. And this goes for literally everybody on the planet, cis or trans. And speaking about the planet, it's got a lot of history. Do you know what else has a lot of history? Transgender people. We did not just magically appear in the 2010s. We have been here since the dawn of literal time, like in early mammals, in modern fish, modern reptiles mostly, modern insects, bugs, creepy crawlies, and modern humans, old humans, the list goes on. In every culture and every era, there have been transgender individuals in history that have been erased due to colonization. In this section, we are going to bring light to the resistance and learn more about the culture surrounding them. Yippee! In the early 18th century England, molly houses were a thing, where trans women, or cross-dressers as they'd put it, would gather and sometimes sell sex. These houses would often be raided by police, and individuals would be arrested and tried for disorderly conduct, impersonation, and inciting sodomy, aka anal intercourse. This isn't to say that cross-dressing or being trans wasn't always illegal, but it became illegal when it was tied to sex work, or if the police felt like it. Police, nowadays too, would often arrest these women on site because they felt it to be disorderly. Individuals in molly houses were often AMAB, wore feminine clothing, went by feminine names, and took part in many of the roles being attached to women at the time. In 19th century England, transgender people were still there and still trying to live their best lives. James Barry, a leading doctor and surgeon who worked to raise standards for medical care, was born AFAB. Awesome. The term transgender did not exist at that time. It hadn't really been coined, but they damn well were still there. We were there. Me personally, I was there. Lily Elise Alvenes, better known as Lily Elbe, was a Danish painter and one of the first recipients of a gender-affirming surgery, in which she received a uterus implant in the attempt to carry her own child. Hell yeah. Although we were in very early days of science and surgeries, that goes for absolutely everything, so she did die later on from complications of that. But let's move on and swim across the pond and hear about our Polynesian counterparts and their experiences with gender. In ancient Polynesia, Mahu, which meant in the middle, referred to people who did not identify as men or women. Captain William Bligh, in his 1789 visit to Tahiti, wrote that they weren't just tolerated like their Western counterparts, they were respected and they were honoured. They played important roles as caretakers and healers and teachers, and also kumu hula, which is a very important role in hula. In South Asian countries like Pakistan and Bangladesh and Nepal, the Hijra community is a cultural and gender group traditionally recognized as neither exclusively male or female. Yet again, references to them appear in ancient texts, such as the Kama Sutra and the Mahabharata. These countries in the 21st century have granted official recognition to Hijra as a third gender, although since colonization they have yet to rid their country of the Western view on gender nonconformity. So Hijra individuals still unfortunately face backlash, and the same goes for Mahu. When the nuclear family and gender discrimination was introduced from around the world via colonization, everybody began to lose the knowledge of what gender really is. However, Elagabalus, a Roman emperor who rules from CE 218 to 222, was AMAB, but chose to wear feminine clothes and wanted to be referred to femininely. She would also express desire for sex change surgery, or something along those lines, because back in the day, I don't know what they called that. Although the people of Rome shunned and stigmatized it, and she was thrown into the Tiber River and assassinated at age 18, which is crazy to think that's like a little bit younger than me. So people did more than just disagree with us. Like, they genuinely wanted and still want to eradicate us from the face of the earth. In 1919, Magnus Hirschfeld opened the Institute für Sexualwissenschaft, or Institute of Sexology, in Berlin. Hirschfeld was gay and Jewish, and he dedicated his work to studying human sexology, and even published a book called Berlin's Third Sex in 1904. They offered everything from therapy, surgery, to marriage counseling, and the institute ran on doctors, scientists, and psychiatrists. He coined the term transsexual in 1923, and he even gave out what he called transvestite passes to patients in case they were harassed by police for how they were dressed, and hopefully this would protect them, in theory. However, on the 6th of May 1933, Nazi-affiliated youths broke into the institute and ransacked everything. Decades of research and development and so much knowledge was lost in just one big bonfire right outside of the institute. It's important to mention, however, that Hirschfeld has made racist remarks in his time, which has been explored deeper in recent years, although he did make some outstanding progress in sexology. He was still kind of a loser. And all of this kind of brings us to the next section, where we're going to talk about and explore transphobia and how it affects literally everyone. We've all seen transphobia in some shape or form. We've all watched movies, and there's always been that one joke where someone's like, "That's a woman?" And there's 4 key categories that we can shove transphobia into: infantilization, trans threat, gender policing, and medical panic. It's easier to look at transphobia like a tree. You see the massive trunk, and the strong branches and the broad leaves, but there's something holding it down that we can't see, and those are the roots. Transphobia as a whole stems from misogyny and a fear of distancing from the Western status quo. Trans men are seen as failed women, as confused, and it's a belief in some people that we transition due to a hatred for being a woman, sort of like an internalized misogyny thing. Trans women are attacked more viciously by society and governments than any other group in the community, if I say so myself. If she can be identified as trans in passing, she is dangerous, a sexual deviant, and a predator. If she is identified as cis in passing, she's looking to entice people and trap them, to have intercourse and unaware of the fact that she's secretly trans. So you can see kind of where the misogyny is brewing. With trans men and women, misogyny affects us by trying to gatekeep the status of womanhood, identifying good women and bad women. And as well as that, it's also like the bad men. But that's not even with trans men, that's just with trans women as well. They're saying, well, I can't believe like this man is walking around wearing dresses, calling themselves a girl, and this hurts everyone. A 9-year-old cisgendered Canadian girl was meant to be competing at a track and field event in school before she was yelled at by a man and accused of being transgender. He then later asked to see documents to confirm she was a girl and then wanted her to be disqualified. This is what we call transvestigating. And this is what I mean when I say that transphobia affects everyone. Mostly women for some reason. But I think we all know why. Kayla Morton, a cisgendered, mask-presenting lesbian, was literally just having a pee in the bathroom when a shop employee, a man, shined lights onto her store. She had to, like, lift her shirt up to prove that she was a woman, and he still didn't believe her after that, insisting that she looked like a man. What about you being built like a bus? Danny Davis, a 6'4" cisgendered woman, was followed into the bathroom of the Walmart that she worked at. The Walmart that she worked at! A man followed her in, shouting that he was gonna protect his family. And by the way, his girlfriend or wife, presumably, was very, very, like, embarrassed and was, like, literally telling him to get out. I hope that she saw that as a red flag and, like, left him. I'm being so genuine right now. Like, girl, I hope you're okay. And there are so many different times that this has happened. And notice how it almost always ends up happening to a woman that doesn't fit traditional feminine stereotypes. This, like, trans panic has whipped up so much, like hysteria. People are literally just, like, accusing people left and right of being trans, when there's literally nothing to accuse anyone of. Being trans doesn't mean anything. Just because, like, I'd be more worried about, like, me, a trans man, like, being let into the women's bathroom. Like, I'm not gonna, like, look at anyone, but I'm a man. I'm gonna make everyone in there uncomfortable. Everyone's gonna be looking at me like, what is this, like, little boy doing in here? Where's his parents? So if people aren't adhering to stereotypical gender norms, they are a danger to society. Okay, I also want to bring up the fact that ableism can work its way into transphobia too, and vice versa. There was a transgender man online who got a truckload of hate, mostly directed at his friends and family because he just finished his medical transition. Whoopee! But he also has cerebral palsy, so he doesn't have the ability to verbally communicate properly. He is also 100% conscious, intelligent, and capable of making mature decisions. He has bodily autonomy. But due to the fact that this ableism is categorized in the low competence, high warmth category, seen in this diagram right here, people think that he has been forced into this position and mutilated. because apparently trans people just want to mutilate themselves and others, like breast surgeries and plastic surgeries and reconstructive surgeries are completely normal. People are afraid that trans people are going to corrupt people, like children, and force them to be transgender, when that is literally not at all the case. Why would anybody want to do that? When society is feeling scared, confused, or like things are moving too fast, they are going to look towards someone to point to. They're going to look towards simple answers, often guided by propaganda material. They want someone to point to it so that they can put them as the reason that they're struggling. Because it's easier to blame a group of minorities than sit with your own systemic failures. Trans people became an easy target in 2010 when people were like, oh wow, look at these people getting crazy insane surgeries at 3 a.m. No clickbait! Like, the outrage on this topic gets attention, it gets views. The more crazy your opinion, the more attention you'll get, and the more brainwashed people will believe it. And I don't mean brainwashed in the mean bully way, I mean some people are actually brainwashed. Fear gets exaggerated, and rare situations like a transgender student committing a shooting are presented as common. But let's just put this very plainly. Transgender people are not an other. Everyone has a gender, and we are all living human beings. And we all secretly like watching reality TV. There's a website that I'm going to link down in the description which talks about the myths and the truths behind being transgender, like the common misconceptions, if you will. But I'm talking too much about like transphobia and really negative things, so I'm going to look at something different. We're going to talk about something different now. And I'm going to begin this section by quoting Dr. Morat Altanay, who worked on one of the unbiased transgender studies. He said that some of the brain scans show people are somewhere in between, showing the characteristics of both male and female brains, and this scientifically proves that gender exists on a spectrum. So let's just swerve over to some different terms. Let's go back and forth. Let's learn something. Perceived gender means the gender other people may perceive you as when they first meet you. If you are a transgender man, someone on the street sees you and they say she, that might not be because they're transphobic. That might just be because, maybe, I mean this with all respect, you might not, like, your perceived gender might differ from your actual gender. Your actual gender is what it says in the can. It's what your brain shows that you are. And your sex, your sexual characteristics, is what you are biologically. It has nothing to do with gender, it's just body parts. The wonderful professor, Judith Butler, explains that everyone has their own gender theory, and everyone has their own assumptions. Gender is a performance in the way that we're working to create what we attribute to our gender. It can be confusing if you're someone who's grown up with structured, stereotyped gender roles. All you've ever heard is that gender is there, and it's a solid scientific thing. And it is real, it's not fake, it's something we do repeatedly in our own clothing, our body language, our voice, and how we see ourselves. And just because I might do a lot of this, and I might like, pantsy around pansy, that doesn't mean that I'm not a man. That just means that I'm gay. I might be a little bit gay. And that's not to say that a woman acting masculinely is actually a man. That just means that she's expressing her experience as a woman, as I'm expressing my experience as a man. Femininity, masculinity, pronouns are all sort of just like accessories for ourselves. And transgender people aren't breaking gender roles. We are just showing that these roles exist and they can be broken out of, they can be changed, they can be decorated. The gender roles aren't real. I'm sorry. Gender is real, but gender roles are a bit of a stupid cage, basically. Trans people don't make gender confusing. We're just showing that it already is. It's not our fault. Don't come after us. And I think that just about covers everything. Obviously, there will be some people who will hear all of this, ignore it, and go straight to the comments saying, I actually don't agree with you. Like, girl, this is not an opinion. This is like, This is bare bones honest truth. This is all bare bones honest science. And I just hope that this was helpful or fun to watch for some people. If you want to put me in the background, that's fine. I'll talk, I'll yap. If you like my vibe and whatnot, like and subscribe. Anyway, bye!